But I want to begin with this. By all accounts, Kamala Harris is going to be the Democrat nominee. She's going to replace Joe Biden on the ticket. She's raising a lot of money. She's going to have enough delegates to be the nominee. We'll discuss later what that means for Trump and how the election might shake out. But when I first saw the news Sunday, and we knew what it meant for Harris, my first thought was, what has she ever done to earn a spot atop a ticket? The answer is nothing. Kamala Harris was a notoriously unpopular district attorney, attorney general, vice president. The turnover in her staff is near record high. They keep bowing out, quitting. She's not firing them. They're leaving on purpose. In fact, outside of being born a black woman, Harris's resume is really unimpressive. And yes, that's exactly why she's in this position. We take you back to 2020 when she had to bow out of the primary race before January. When Biden was the nominee, the party demanded he pick a black woman. So he settled on Kamala Harris. She's been an atrocious VP by pretty much every measure you look at, including the border. She was supposed to be the Caesar. She doesn't go there. People are dying, being raped by these illegal thugs. She said nothing. When asked about it, she giggles it off and says, well, I haven't been to Europe either. But it raises a bigger picture. We've talked about the problems and consequences of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, for a while now. For the most part, you might say it hasn't mattered. It's mostly impacted newsrooms at Slate and MSNBC and a lot of useless jobs where they said, hey, you're a white guy. You can't have this job. We're going to give it to a black woman no matter her qualifications. But when it impacts the most powerful position in the world, which the U.S. president is, that has to be an eye-opener for everybody. We always hear the phrase threat to democracy. We are a democracy. In anointing a candidate as a presidential nominee when she never earned it is the antithesis of a democracy. This is our country. We're supposed to vote on who represents each party. And we're not doing that now. Nobody voted for Kamala Harris. They voted for Biden. The delegates pledged in favor of Biden. A president's number one job, same with a nominee, is to serve the country, serve the people. But in return, it's our decision to decide who is going to serve us. So to see Kamala Harris bypass all standard procedures and inevitably challenge Trump atop the ticket, that's unacceptable. This is not her country. It's not the Democrats' country. It's our country. And speaking to several Democratic voters over the past 2 days, they're mad too. They did, for whatever reason, support Joe Biden. They never issued support for Harris, but she's now going to be the face of their party over the next 2.5, 3 months, simply because she was born black and female. Now, I know these are very controversial topics. People don't want to be called racist and misogynistic. So even though about 70% of the country reports to disapprove DEI, they mostly stay silent. They self-censor. But here's what is still great about this country. You don't need to yell about Harris taking an easy way up or talk about it even. You decide the fate, the future, by your votes. If you're against DEI, you're against Kamala Harris because you don't think she's qualified, you have a decision. In November, you can vote not just against Kamala Harris, but also vote against DEI, which in a lot of ways is destroying the very foundation of what's made America great for so long, and that is appointing the very best people in the most powerful positions. Joining me now is somebody who has covered DEI probably better than almost anybody I've seen in the media. Sage Steele, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, Bobby. What a time.
Yeah,
Goodness.
absolutely. So happy to have you. What are your initial thoughts on the likelihood, the inevitability that Kamala Harris is going to be the nominee despite voters not wanting her by all accounts?
Listen, I try not to laugh when it
Yeah,
comes to politics, but sometimes if you don't laugh, you
yeah,
cry. I think that's something that's been on my mind a lot since that debate on June 27th.
right.
And when all of a sudden all the mainstream media decided that they're going to acknowledge the fact that there's some cognitive issues with Joe Biden, and it's like, what are we going to do? And should he step down? When the left was acknowledging that, it's like,
Right.
okay, we're going to finally decide to speak the truth. But what does that mean? Who's next in line?
Yeah.
You know, especially when it came to the $90 million worth of campaign donations for Joe Biden's reelection bid. That money can really only go to Kamala Harris. So to me, when we were thinking of all these other people potential, no, it was always going to be Kamala.
Yeah.
It's just so disappointing considering she's really never been elected for many things in her career. She's been selected. And I think that there's a really huge difference there. And it just continues, and all for the wrong reasons, even though it is the right reason based on her being the vice president. Like, this
Yeah.
is what is supposed to happen. That's why the position of the vice president is so crucial for something like this that we've just witnessed.
Yeah, and that's the key of all this is that this is why when Biden was pressured to pick a black woman, it wasn't just an idea for messaging, it was a way to eventually bestow power upon her. She is the only candidate who can inherit his war chest, as you mentioned. So if he were to pick a better candidate, that candidate would have likely been atop this ticket for the same reasons she is. And let's talk about Democrat voters. In 2020, they rejected Harris quickly. Biden was more popular. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg. They don't want Kamala Harris either. It's so frustrating that we're supposed to just sit back and accept this in a democracy. They don't want her atop the ticket. The voters don't. So just to give her this because she's next in line and was able to get her way in there using the race card, you can't understate that. That is such a damning indictment on our entire society.
Yeah, I agree. But again, they really didn't have much of a choice if you want to make sure all that money
Yeah.
is. And by the way, if I'm one of those people who was donated to the Biden reelection campaign, I'm livid. What happened to my $20 or
Yeah.
$5,000 that I gave? Because this is not what I was thinking. If I'm, if I'm somebody who chose to donate, you go back and it's like these are the same people who are endorsing Kamala, who also said Joe Biden's fine. He's
Right.
fine, you
Yeah.
guys. Stop making such a big deal out of this, and you're just making stuff up, and it's the right wing nut job. No, again, I interviewed Joe Biden 3.5 years ago when
Right.
I was still at ESPN. I did it on SportsCenter, and I've said many times publicly how sad it made me to have the pre-taping conversation before we began, because I felt those things. And as a woman who lost her grandmother and has been around a lot of people with Alzheimer's and dementia, I'm quite sensitive to the human element of this. And I have long said it's disgusting that the Democrats and his family, most importantly, allowed it to get to this point. But these are the same people who are saying he's fine, he's fine, he's fine for all these years. Then all of a sudden he's not. And then we're slow to,
Right.
endorse Kamala. And now Kamala's the person. Like, again, as a voter, the average American, you've got to just, might not always say it. Look at people's track record. Look at the track record of the Democrats and what they've done. And oh, by the way, Joe Biden didn't want to go. He made that very clear. They forced him
Right.
out.
It was not
It would
his
have been better if
decision.
he'd done it himself a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Maybe not even run in 2020, for God's sake, right? But they forced him out, and now we're just supposed to believe that they're genuine, thinking that Kamala can do the job. When, how about the basic assignments she's been given? How about being the border czar? And she hasn't even communicated with the bosses, the heads, the leaders down there in over a year. Like, what is that? And I'm disgusted that we're to this point.
And the whole idea, and this is in the immediate aftermath, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, they right away went to how influential she can be by paving the way for women of color. But Sage, this is somebody who isn't even that well liked among women of color. We see the polling in Georgia. A lot of black women don't even like her. This idea that she is now the face for women of color, the avatar, and she's going to lead the way. You're a woman of color. Isn't that offensive that you're supposed to just bow down to her because she was born similar to you, I guess?
Listen, you know me. I've never been to be a fan of anyone that says, well, this is even,
Right.
it's funny. I had a panel a few weeks back right before the debate actually in Atlanta, and it was with Congressman Byron Donalds and Congressman Wesley Hunt from Florida and Texas, respectively. And I kind of went back and forth with them about, they're there to talk to Black voters and the Black vote, the Black vote. I'm like, how does anyone know what the Black vote is? Are we saying what's the white vote? Like, what?
Exactly.
How do we say that we're
Right.
like, you can't claim to speak for me just because we have a similar skin color or gender? Like, it's actually, that's racist, isn't it? To say, well, this is what Black women
Yeah.
want. Shut up already. Like, I can't even, it makes me crazy. And
Yeah.
so I will continue to push back. And now it's, well, let's have a double whammy with Kamala, a
Right.
woman of color, and maybe Gretchen Whitmer and an all female ticket. Wouldn't that be amazing? You know what people want? People want competence. They want someone who can do the job, has
Yeah.
proven that they have been able to do the job in some form or fashion, which Kamala Harris never
Yeah.
was able to do in California before being
Right.
selected to be the vice president. They want someone who's going to be committed to our national security, committed to our economy getting better, and to just be honest. Is it tough to find honesty in politics? Hell yeah, it is. It's
Right.
really, really difficult. But I have to stop voting with your emotions, right? Stop with that. It's facts over feelings. And it's really just not that hard of a concept. That's why I've been fine with Trump for all these years, because I can put that other stuff aside and say, what have you done? What have you shown me in 2016 as a businessman leading up to that? And the antithesis of Hillary Clinton. And now we know what he did for 4 years. We know that if you want to, categorize, Black unemployment was at its lowest level under Donald Trump almost ever in history, or at least in 50 years. So look at the facts, look at the track record, and not your feelings, and do the right thing, not just for yourself and your family, but for our country. Because right now, we've never in my lifetime, 50 plus years, been in a worse, more vulnerable position.
Yeah, so well said. You touched on an important point about what's actually racist. We always hear that word. People always call me racist, including some of your former colleagues for whatever reason. But the real racism on a macro level that we see are the so-called leaders of the Black community constantly telling Black people, if you don't think a certain way, you're not actually Black. You have your Black card removed. You mentioned Byron Donalds. They have been calling him Uncle Byron the past week because of what he said at the RNC, which was a pretty unifying message. You've gotten that hate a lot. Candace Owens gets it probably every day. This idea that Black people are a monolithic entity, that they must support the Democrat Party, they must concede to whatever pre-approved narratives they're supposed to espouse, that is by definition racist. And white conservatives are not the ones doing that. It's two groups, the Black Twitter, Black community, and white liberals who seem to weaponize Black people for their own gain, like Joe Biden did for about 3.5 years.
It's so funny. I have been called racist myself by
Yeah.
so many people who look like me, and then
Right.
white people calling me a racist because
Yeah.
I don't go along and sit in the boxes that they have created for me, which I think is fascinating. I now laugh at that, Bobby, because I
Right.
think it's comical to hear people even
Right.
say that, and damaging and further divisive to say, again, we've come so far, right? But because of your skin color,
Right.
how can you? I mean, I get it all the time in my social media. How can you vote for Republicans? I just think, my goodness, the brainwashing that has just continued to be passed down is really heartbreaking. That event I mentioned in Atlanta with Byron and Wesley was really fascinating. And it was a group of about 200 predominantly Black men. And that's what their goal was. And I just moderated the panel, but it was just to get out and speak. And the message was, you don't have to be a Democrat. You can be, but you don't have to be,
Right.
which is what so many Black men and women are taught, especially in the South, but for whatever reason. And then some of the conversations I had on the side, I'm like, do you guys remember, like, Martin Luther King was a Republican?
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand and know the history. And all I say is, okay, fine, vote Democrat. I actually, that is 100% you're right. But just tell me why. And tell me how the Democratic Party has helped Black America
Right.
In the inner cities, in Atlanta, where I was, or in Chicago, certainly Barack Obama, in the last 50 years. How about just the last 10 years? Just show me how we are better off in those communities. And then they just go back to, well, Donald Trump is a racist because they know the truth with that. So it was a beautiful, I give Byron and Wesley such credit for going in. Let's just go into those communities and talk and ask me any question. And it got heated and uncomfortable. It really did.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and I'll shut up after this. There's so many Black men and women who do agree with more of a centrist, center right, thought process with everything, especially when you look at abortion, especially when you look at so many of these hot topics. And so the key is that many have been so afraid to come out and say it. And I said to them, I understand your fear. I lived in that fear. I felt that fear. I received the hatred telling me from Black people, I'm not Black enough.
Right.
I'm a sellout. I'm a coon. I'm all the things.
Yeah.
It's devastating, but I just tried to tell them, look, I'm still standing, and I know I'm not alone. The reason why you came is because you care. So we've got to continue to get out in communities and not say you must be a Democrat. Just say, think for yourself, educate yourselves, and make your own decision based on what's best for you, not because of this. Then we might as well go back to Jim Crow. We might as well go back to the civil rights era, because that's what it feels like.
What advice do you have for people who are in a similar situation as you were at ESPN, one of the few conservative people, I guess, Black or woman of color, not supposed to have the opinions you have? Because a lot of people feel that same way, but it's not even that they're being censored, they're self-censoring. They're afraid. They would rather shut up because it's a lot easier. And it would have been a lot easier for you, too, to just shut up, toe the line, and make a lot of money. But you chose to speak out, not worry about how many colleagues supported you. And a lot of Americans, I think that's why your story has been of such interest, because people can relate to that. I talk to people all the time in media who work for different outlets, DM me or call me or text me and say, we agree with what you say so much, but we're not allowed to retweet what you say. We can't comment on it. That's taboo. What's your advice, Sage Steele, to some accountant who feels the same way? They're being told to follow a script, believe a certain thing, or risk everything.
Yeah. My comment to them and my feelings are, I'm sorry, because I know what that feels like, and I hate
it too.
I also fully understand the need to stay silent, to make that decision. I did it for many, many years. And what I got in trouble for was something I did separately from work on purpose, on an off day and a separate podcast. And ended up standing up for myself just because ESPN allowed others actually to give their opinions on ESPN airwaves about political issues. Mine was on the side,
No, yours was right. You weren't allowed to question the vaccine or say that you don't think you have to identify Black or white. That crossed the line, according to them.
Right, which is comical considering what is allowed on ESPN airwaves. And that's the only reason why I stood up, because otherwise I was super careful. And I will say this too. I respect employers and their rules. And like I used to say to some of my bosses at ESPN, why are you allowing some of these more liberal viewpoints to be espoused on your airwaves? Because remember what Michael Jordan said back in the 80s, like, Republicans buy sneakers too?
Yeah.
And I don't even mean that literally. It's just in general. Don't you want everybody to watch your product, to buy your product, not just half of the country? Why not all of us? So I used to say to my bosses, why are you allowing this? And so for me, it just, I guess this is the quote unquote advice I would give. You just have to pay attention to how you feel inside. And like I told Megyn Kelly the 2 days after I left ESPN in an emotional interview, I didn't know what my line was until it was crossed. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, holy crap, I cannot accept this any longer. My line is going to be different from your line, and his and hers, but just know what it is, or be aware of what's going through your mind and your heart, because it's going to continue. For me, it built up. And then when they silenced me and punished me and took assignments away, now I'm like, okay, now my line's crossed, now I'm done. Yeah. You just have to know what's best for you. But I will never, the one issue that I have been impatient with people being silent about is the transgender sports issue and how none of my female colleagues
Yeah.
and female sports stars have stood up to state the obvious, which this isn't even opinion, it's fact based with the science behind it. That's where it's shameful that everybody's remained silent, because if we as women of the media came together for that, and some of these athletes, and this would stop and we would help so
Right.
many. So that's separate from the main point here, which is you just have to know what your line is and then stand pat. When I stood up, I didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring. I had no idea. I was scared to death. I still don't know what tomorrow is. I love what I'm doing now in my show, but at the end of the day, it would have been safer and more comfortable and cheaper
Right.
to stay quiet,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's professionally or personally.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I've realized who my true friends are. That's been a huge blessing to find out who my people really are. And to know that by speaking up, this is the most important part, man, you can help a lot of other people.
Right.
That's been the biggest blessing. And so that's what I would say to people. Just know that it is scary and it's legitimate. Those are real feelings. But it isn't just about you. When you stay silent, your peers are watching. Your kids, my kids were watching. And I didn't know till after that they were like, Mom, it's about time you stood up. And that made me sob that I waited so long. So I just hope people realize it's about more than yourselves, and you can really help others by having the courage to take a stand. And you don't have to hurt others in the process. You don't have to badmouth or insult others. Be kind, be strong, give your opinion, be okay with what might come along and the haters that are going to come, because they will, and move on. But know that at least you didn't cave to your own morals and values. You did the harder right.
So I do know you a little bit. I'm not going to pretend that we're complete strangers. You mentioned your kids. You have 3. I believe they're all college age. I know how important they are to you, and not just about your message to them, that they can have a voice, that they don't have to toe that line. They don't have to just play this game. They can not play it and be themselves. But I think your situation is also interesting. We live in such a divided time. There's so much hate. There's so much vitriol, just nastiness. Do you fear that your kids are growing up in really hard times, not financially, but culturally? You mentioned the trans stuff. There is so much peer pressure to go along with this Marxian concept, whether it's DEI, Black Lives Matter, transgenderism. All these concepts are very, very consequential. I mean, we'll talk about it later with transgenderism, but it's essentially a precursor to suicide. 45% of trans adults have contemplated suicide, yet young Americans are supposed to support that? No way. If somebody came to you and said, Sage, I'm anorexic, I'm going to cut my leg off, you would say, you need help immediately. You're going to kill yourself. Same with taking opioids or drinking too much alcohol. But if somebody comes to you and says, I'm thinking about transitioning, you're supposed to say, oh, I support you. But for people under 30, they're groomed to consider that and sympathize with the trans community. I think that that whole message to them is enabling this really fractured nation we have right now.
Yeah, I agree. And when you look at what just happened in California and how Gavin Newsom, made it so that schools do not have to communicate at all.
Disgusting.
Yeah, at all, if their kids are beginning like hormone replacement treatments and the transition. How could you not tell the parents about this? Like, it's actually evil. And it's not even just wrong or terrible, it's evil.
It's sinister.
I'll leave it with Gavin Newsom for sure. Secondly, I'm so grateful for Elon Musk with what he's done on Twitter, on X, and truly made it a free speech platform. And that includes hatred. And that is how it should be. Like, I don't want him to cut off the people who hate on me.
Yeah.
I might mute them. I don't block anybody, but I might mute them. But I'm not, like, they have that right to be gross. That's fine. It's part of it. You got to take the bad with the good. But yes, I'm beyond concerned. The other Elon Musk point I wanted to make. Did you see how he talked about what happened to his son, and how he lost him because of what's happening in this woke world with creating it like it's an okay thing to just chop body parts off? Like, It took such courage
Yeah.
for Elon Musk to admit that. And that's his why for trying to destroy the woke culture. Wow. Like his terrible experience as a father is going to hopefully help save others. And I think that is incredible. I was so blown away by him sharing that and grateful. My kids are 22, 20, and 18. In August, I'm officially be an empty nester, all three in college at the same time in just a couple of weeks, and it's surreal. The cool thing about them being that age is that the conversations I can have with them are really, really deep and really important. My oldest daughter, Quinn, who's 22, she's scared. And she's like, Mom, what is this world? What are we in? What are we doing? And I don't really know what to say, except stay educated, know your facts, be able to have conversations with friends, with other friends' parents, with in classrooms with professors. They're fortunately at a very, very, it's a wonderful university, High Point University, where diverse opinions are welcomed, actually. And, you know, like if you don't stand for the national anthem, the president of the university will come like lift you up at the basketball game. Like it's a really special place for that reason, but it's encouraged her to continue to use her voice and just ask questions and have conversations. And she is scared and she desperately wants to be a mother. And she's like, Mom, is that even smart for me to consider bringing kids into this world? Are we even going to be here in 20 or 30 years? Like these are real questions. And it breaks my heart. I never thought that these are the conversations I'd be having with my children when I became a mother, but here we are. So I'm just encouraging, you know, her and other parents to have the tough conversations, encourage those kids to do their homework and not just take what's on TikTok and anything else as news. That's not going away anytime soon, as far as I'm concerned. And there's so much influence there. So conversations, tough conversations, arguments, peaceful, but you know, it's real, Bobby. And I am scared, but I also know, like my daughter also has a very strong faith and she prays all the time, every day for other people, for situations. And that's been something that's been looked down upon for so many years, right? To be public with your faith. And if you are from what right-wing nut job Bible beater, that's not what my girl is. She just cares and she loves Jesus and she feels that that's the only answer. And I'm so she's inspiring me to continue to pray for our country. And that's kind of, what else do you do? Like, what else can you do besides speak up if you have a platform in a professional way, not crushing others, really. I think you can do it in a professional way and not be ugly. Look out for each other. But I don't see us turning around soon unless Donald Trump gets in. But obviously, there's a long way until November 5th with the events of the last couple of weeks.
Sage, I'll get you out of here on this, and you brought it up, and that's exactly where I was going. I know how much faith means to you. You've talked about your mom and how that helped you see the world through a different lens. But how much, you've gone through a lot the past few years, pretty well documented. Did you find yourself relying more on faith even when things seem unfair, scary? Because I know a lot of people struggle. People my age, I talk to them and they're like, well, the world is so bad. How could God be in control if we're suffering? What do you say to people like that?
I understand. I do understand it. I also, my daughter Quinn and I talk about this a lot, and how if you look back and in the Bible, and it talks about all of the ugliness that ensued and the craziness and the fires and the floods and the disease, et cetera, before Jesus came down, you know, and that's what I'm hoping. I feel like, does that mean it's the end of the world if he comes back now? Like, I don't know. I'm no expert, you know, but my faith is literally what has picked me up off of the floor over the last several years, you know, with everything at ESPN. That just broke my heart to have to make the decision to file a lawsuit, to stand up, you know. Once it was filed, it was like, okay, here we go. And this is kind of a cool story. I don't know if I ever told you. I've said it publicly a few times, but it was 22 months from the moment I got suspended and pulled off the air for my comments to the moment that the lawsuit was settled with ESPN and Disney. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of is continuing to go to work every day and host SportsCenter, the job that I loved, with people that I loved. I loved my co-host, my producers, and my team. It was the best in my entire tenure there, was those last 3 years on the noon Eastern SportsCenter. But every day, especially once I was taken off suspension and brought back to work, Bobby, I had this pit in my stomach. I was shaking almost every day before I went in because I had been told by bosses and seen stuff online from my peers how hated I was. And so I had to like every day build up the strength to walk in there and still like compartmentalize and go on the air for 2 hours of live national TV work and just do it. And I was able to do it, and I'm so grateful, but I would not have been able to do it without my faith. Every day when I pulled into the parking lot in Bristol, Connecticut at ESPN, I would call my mom and dad, and we'd have a little speakerphone conversation, and we'd end by saying a prayer. And it was St. Michael the Archangel, protect us in battle, protect us from the wickedness and snares of the devil, like to push away bad, push away evil spirits, evil gestures, whatever it might be, stuff that I did feel when I was within those four walls going back to work there. And so every darn day I'd walk in there feeling like I had this protective bubble around me because I knew that God had me. Even if I fell on my face on TV again, or if someone came up and said something awful or like, I just felt protected. And I know that I would not be here talking with you today if it weren't for my faith, which was instilled in me by my mom and dad, who've been through stuff so much tougher than I could ever go through, ever. So it's perspective and faith. And I do believe that despite the ugliness out there in this world, and it is truly devastating in so many ways throughout the world, not just in this country, I still believe there's more good than bad. I see it every day. I see it on airplanes. I see it in grocery stores. I see it on the streets of New York City, along with the homelessness and the real devastation that's on the city streets of New York. But there's so much good and kindness. It's amazing how far a smile goes. I used to look down at the ground when I was walking anywhere for the last few years in fear that someone would say something and I'd be called a racist and called a sellout and called all these things. I just wouldn't I realized I wasn't making eye contact. And my chin's back up and I'm making eye contact because it's a smile that can maybe change someone else's day. But
So
like,
true.
that's only because of my faith. It's only because of my faith. And I wouldn't change a damn thing that happened at ESPN. Cancel me 100 more times, guys. It's fine. You know?
Sage, I think that is such a powerful statement. I just want to say, and I've told you this privately, I'm so proud of you. I know what situation you were in. I know what people said about you. Almost all of it was not true, but I'm proud of you. When we first started talking maybe 6-7 years ago, from where you were, where you felt voiceless and just part of this machine, and that you were lucky to be part of this machine, you weren't lucky to be a part of it. You have so much more to give and say publicly than reading some stupid Sports Center highlight and silencing yourself.
Thank you. It means a lot. I can finally say humbly that I'm proud of myself because I never thought this shy kid who had this crazy dream of hosting SportsCenter someday would find the strength to say, no, this is not okay. And it's not fair for half of our country. So I don't know how long it'll last. I feel grateful to have the platform now to be able to talk to you. I would never obviously been able to do this and to have conversations on my new show, like just with different people, like what a blessing. And I feel like besides being a mother to those 3 crazy kids who are basically adults, like I know now why God has me on this earth. It's because I have a big mouth, I guess. And like, I'm not afraid to speak up. And so I feel like every day's a blessing. So I appreciate your words and your support through the years. It means more than you know.
Sage Steele, you can check her out on her new podcast, The Sage Steele Show. Coming up next, stranded at the airport? So am I. So is tens of thousands of Americans. You're watching and listening to The Will Cain Show.
The world of business moves fast. Stay on top of it with the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday. Fox Business reporters, anchors, and hosts will bring you beneath the stock market speculation and boardroom drama to tell you about the biggest business stories of today. Whether you're on Main Street or Wall Street, Fox Business is invested in you.
Listen to the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
Streaming now on Fox Nation, an all-new season of American Dynasty.
They had the dream. They had the idea.
5 new episodes.
Having the right idea at the right time is a golden road to riches.
5 new families.
They never stopped trying to come up with something.
Harley Davidson, Mars, Johnson & Johnson, the Carnegies.
He took that company where no one thought it would go.
And Anheuser-Busch.
What more could you want?
The Monarchs of Money are back. American Dynasty. New season streaming now, only on Fox Nation. Sign up at foxnation.com.
It's time to take the quiz. 5 questions, 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week.
History, pop culture, science, sports, civics. How much do you know? Let's find out.
Who was the first person to walk on the moon?
Jackson or something?
Neil Armstrong.
Take the quiz every weekday at thequiz.fox and then listen to the quiz podcast to find out how you did.
Play, share, and of course, listen to the quiz right now at thequiz.fox.
It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live on Fox News YouTube, Fox News Facebook, and now across the radio airwaves. Bobby Burack filling in for Will. That was a really strong conversation with Sage Steele. I think her words on faith and her situation and fears for her kids were really eye-opening, and hopefully the viewers and listeners saw it the same way. I'm going to change gears to something a little less serious, but has me really mad right now. So I flew into New York on Sunday, and I was supposed to arrive at 2 p.m. I arrived at 11:30 because of Delta. They're having all these tech issues since Friday, and tens of thousands of people are still stranded at the airport. I've been getting alerts all day. I'm supposed to fly out later tonight. I don't know if I can. So I called Delta to see what my options are. And Dan, James, in the control room, you know what their response was? We're sorry. They don't plan on helping, having me get out sooner. They're not letting me change flights. They're not letting anybody do anything. They are brutal. Just saying, pretty much, yeah, we're sorry. We don't care that there are 4,500 people who have had their flights canceled or delayed since Sunday. And I think that is such bad business. And look, no one's supposed to say this, but everybody is going to nod along when I say it. When you wait on call for an hour to finally get a hold of some customer service rep, and then they can't understand you. Now, look, I'm not going all nationalist here, but when you are the number one air service in America and you don't have the nerve to pay people who can understand the customers, you're going to cheap out by licensing firms from other countries. That's not a knock at the reps who don't speak proper English. It's a knock at the Delta executives who don't care enough to provide adequate customer service. So once we wrap up this show, I don't know when I'm getting out of New York, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, we'll see. But maybe I'm just being a diva. Maybe I'm entitled. With that, we welcome in our lunchtime panel, Lexie Rigden, lawyer and legal commentator, and Brooke Singman, Fox News digital reporter. Appreciate you guys coming on.
Thanks for having us.
So Brooke,
Thanks for having us.
Brooke, I don't know you too well yet, that you're very nice, that you don't really want to insult people. So I don't think you would tell me even if I'm being a diva. But Lexie, on the other hand, and I know her pretty well, she'll tell me. So Lexie, the floor is yours.
Bobby, you're definitely being a diva. There are a lot of people that are inconvenienced by this, but Bobby kind of has like a history of being a diva in certain instances. And I will give it to you. I will hand it to you. You always speak up for yourself. If you're not happy with something, you make things known. If you don't like your hotel room, you will ask for an upgrade. So there is good and bad to that, but there are a lot of people who are inconvenienced, and I guess you're just one of them. But you are here hosting the Will Cain Show with us, so there could be worse places that you could be stuck.
Okay, so no sympathy for me.
I mean, I have been on the receiving end of canceled flights and everything like that. So I do have a modicum of sympathy, but I also think, I don't know if it was a joke or not, but if you emailed any of the higher ups at Delta and you didn't get a response and you were salty about that, like, I'm sorry, join the club.
You know what? I have to say, I was in Milwaukee coming back from the Republican National Convention on Friday when all these IT issues started to happen. And you know who I have to say was very helpful? united.
Wow.
They were answering me directly on Twitter. They were really in touch, back and forth conversation. And it seemed like I was actually talking to a real person, like not the automated thing. So it was actually just wanted to give a shout out to United. And I only was an hour delayed. So I have a little sympathy for you, Bobby. I do. But New York is not so bad. Just stay in for one more day if you have to.
I appreciate it, Brooke. You're already my favorite panelist on this segment, just for that little segment or little comment there. All right, Brooke, big news again, Secret Service. What do you know?
All right. Well, the Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheatle, resigned this morning. She sent a letter to the entire agency after, I'm sure you saw, that hours-long fiery hearing yesterday on Capitol Hill outside at the House Oversight Committee. She said she takes full responsibility for the failure. She admitted that under oath yesterday, that the Secret Service failed on July 13th when former President Trump was shot and one person killed, two injured, in addition to President Trump. So she admitted she failed. She's now resigned. The president did not fire her. President Biden did not fire her, but she has now resigned. They've just actually, as we're sitting here, tapped her deputy to serve as the acting director of the Secret Service at this point. So we'll see if somebody else is confirmed to that very important Homeland Security position during this Biden administration, or if it is going to continue to be run by the number two, or I guess the former number two, now the acting number one. So this is all playing out. But of course, she resigned amid pressure from both Republicans and Democrats after that hours-long hearing yesterday where she couldn't really answer any questions. And of course, the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General is actually doing an investigation into the security failures that day. So, you know, this is playing out in real time, and Cheatle has now resigned amid that pressure.
Lexie, do you think she had a choice? Could she have stayed on? You couldn't fought this?
I mean, I guess she could have, but I think that it was very clear what was going to be happening. When you have that type of a failure, which is arguably the biggest Secret Service failure ever for a high value target like Donald Trump, and then you have bipartisan support from MAGA Republicans and progressives. I mean, this is like the one issue that kind of brought people together, saying this was such a systematic failure that I think it was probably the right move, and the writing was on the wall. And given her performance yesterday, I don't think that she was long for her position.
What a wild news cycle it's been since the debate. I know leading into it, there wasn't a lot going on. Most of the country was worried about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Then Biden goes on the debate stage, can't speak properly, calls for him to resign. Somebody tries to murder Donald Trump. Biden bows out. You have the Secret Service lap. Like I know you are someone who's always been interested in the news. Where is this past month ranked for you as just memorable news cycles? I'm sure 9/11's up there as well, but just add some perspective as someone who has followed the news since a pretty young age.
I feel like you're calling me old. As a perspective.
Well, look, what I meant is
I'm probably the oldest person on this panel, so I can lend my wisdom. I think obviously 9/11, I was in high school when that happened, and I was glued to it at the time. I used to watch the news every morning before school. Just, I don't know why. I mean, looking back, I was quite a nerd, but
still a
I
nerd.
think still a nerd. Has nothing's changed, but I think definitely this news cycle from the debate on has been just wild. I've been glued to it. Also, when COVID started, that was a really, really crazy news cycle too. I mean, you might remember all of the fear mongering where they would have like a ticker and it'd be like COVID, the second case in California. I remember it kind of migrated west, and then it was in New York. And so that as well. And then maybe when they got Osama bin Laden, I mean, I remember it's moments where you remember where you were when you heard the news. Those are the ones that stick out. And so I think those are the big ones for me. I might be missing some, but I was, when the stock market, the crash of 2008, I was in college. Actually, no, I was in kindergarten. No, I was in college. So I was probably pretty distracted by frivolous things at that point. So that one doesn't stick out too much for me, but the others do.
Yeah, bin Laden's a great point. I remember exactly where I was. I remember that night I was watching a football game, and Barack Obama interrupted the football game to say that we have killed and captured a bin Laden. I think Saddam Hussein's capturing is also up there for me, just as events that I do recall. Brooke, as a reporter, have you ever covered a news cycle this rapid, unknown, and constantly updating?
I have to be honest, since the moment I started at Fox News nearly 10 years ago, which will be 10 years in November, the news cycle has been like this. I mean, of course, it's the last week and a half, the last month is unprecedented, but that's what we say every week. I
Right.
mean, in college, I always knew I wanted to be a political reporter. I always knew I wanted to cover national politics, national news. And I remember my classmates would say, that's so boring. You should cover entertainment or sports. I tried sports. I told you that yesterday, Bobby.
We did, yeah.
I don't know enough. I don't know enough. But
Wait,
sports-
hold on. Let me interrupt there. I'm going to do a quick quiz because Lexie doesn't know sports either. Who won the Super Bowl 3 years ago? Do either one of you know?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Brooke,
think it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Am I wrong?
you're wrong. Lexie,
Come on, really?
you're
Was
wrong.
it the 49ers?
No, they haven't won in a very, very long time. I think since the 90s.
3 years ago?
Yeah.
Was it this Louisiana something?
They haven't won in over a decade.
Well,
you
you know
sure
who it
it's not
wasn't? The Detroit Lions.
They've never won, and you know that. I'm
Bobby's
pretty sure.
team. Yeah.
It was the
21?
Rams. It was the Rams, but good
Oh.
guesses. Anyway,
Right.
sorry to interrupt you, Brooke. I just when you have a moment to put out a pop quiz, you have to take that moment.
Right. We knew I knew I would fail the pop quiz, but I really tried. They won this year though, right?
They did. They won back years. So
Okay,
you're
I knew
close.
that. I'm close enough. But yes, no, I mean, this just how we have been covering national news, national politics in the last 10 years has really been at a level that people have not seen before. I don't know if that's because of how people consume their media and their news. So it's not really you're just checking in on the evening news or the Sunday paper, but there's constantly developments and people, I think the audiences are more engaged in this type of news than they've ever been before. So yes, in the last week and a half since the debate in late June, things have been nonstop. But again, I think things have been nonstop for the last, I don't know, at least the last 5 years. Since President Trump came down the escalator in Trump Tower in June 2015. That's when I think things started to become nonstop because I think it kind of meshed the political nerdiness with, the real, parts of pop culture that maybe people who
I
were
so
not
agree.
really interested in politics, they really became interested when Donald Trump got on the scene because, hey, that's the star of The Apprentice. That's Donald Trump. And there was like a meshing of the two worlds, I think.
So with election season coming up, things are going to get not just polarizing in the media and politics, but inside our homes, right? This is when people, family members, friends, spouses start to getting some arguments. Some people want Trump, some people want Harris. What do you guys recommend for people who can't get along with their loved ones during the political season? Do you just not talk politics? Do you handle it in a different way? Lexie, I'll start with you. What's your advice?
Well, I could talk a lot about this because there's my family. There are people in my family that I don't agree with politically at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do is we just don't talk about it because there's no point. There's no point in talking about it because there's not going to be an agreement. I'm not going to be able to change their minds. They're not necessarily going to be able to change my minds. Although the person I'm thinking of in particular, I don't find to be a very open-minded person. So I feel like I am, so that there would be more potential to change my mind about something, but I just don't talk about it. It's not worth it. And it honestly, no good can come of it.
But it's so hard though. There's so much going on. You almost have to try really hard not to mention what's going on.
Yeah.
Like I have two sisters. One really likes Donald Trump. One really hates Donald Trump. You can't it's hard to just not talk about it. Like the guy was almost assassinated. I know, Brooke, where do you stand on this?
I try to tell friends and family and colleagues about this all the time. We live in America, so discourse is encouraged. And I
Yes.
think people, especially in this super polarizing time, forget that we live in America and it's okay to disagree. So yes, families and friends and loved ones, you can definitely, get a little heated, but I think the best way to approach it, and this is just my strategy, I don't know if the person on the receiving end of things will be as receptive, but I think it's best to really hear the other side out, because no matter what, even if someone is saying something you completely disagree with, even if it's something, completely out of left field or right field, depending on where you stand, you can learn as a person, as an American, something more about the other side's opinion, something more about how you feel, and you will walk away from that conversation feeling either stronger in your own beliefs or maybe a little more open-minded and a little bit more receptive or just kind of empathetic to how someone else is viewing the situation. And I think we all need to come together and do a little bit more of that. Of course, things are so heated, and I'm living in clearly a pink flowery world saying that this could all be okay. But I think that that's what all Americans really need to try to do right now, is just talk about it. Because when you don't talk about it, I think that's when the animosity builds. And I think you can say, hey, this has nothing to do with me and you. We're talking about our political leaders or political figures in this nation. And I think it's best to address it, but in a respectful way, to the people that you love or care for, who disagree with you. You say, this isn't about us. Let's have this discourse. Let's have this conversation together. But leave in a nice way still. I've tried it. It works nicely. So far, so good. I don't know.
See, Lexie, when I come to you and say, no, you can pronounce your name differently, listen to me. Hear me out.
That's such a pet peeve. It's Rigden. For the audience, it's Rigden. That's the only way you can pronounce it.
There's different ways. You could say Rigden.
People like to take their liberties. In fact, I actually think Burack should be Burack. So you know what? Maybe, to your point, maybe there is another way.
Yeah. So I thought it was, look, Brooke seems so nice and caring. So I like that idea that we can still talk about this stuff. We don't have to silence ourselves.
In sharp contrast to me, right?
She really is. This is a good cop, bad cop, as
I
I
know, right?
expected. And I knew that, right? Like, I didn't want to have a panel of Lexie and somebody else who's kind of like sassy. As I didn't want like two nice people, Brooke and someone else. So you guys were a good pairing. But we all need a break from politics eventually. So
yeah.
Lexie, what do we? I know you don't like sports. Do you like sports a little bit, but not a ton? Is there a Netflix show you recommend? Going for a walk, pulling weeds? What do you recommend we do?
I do love to pull weeds. I am notorious for I will pull weeds at my office complex. Nobody's asking me to pull weeds. Nobody's paying me to pull their weeds. Do it in neighbors' yards. There's something so therapeutic about it. Do my best thinking when I'm pulling weeds. So pulling weeds is a big one. Beautifying the area. I do love a good documentary. I love a good reality show. Love is Blind on Netflix, a good trashy reality show, which has brought people together that I never assumed would ever watch a show like that. So I guess if you can just kind of enjoy it for what it is. And then we have the old standbys too, like The Sopranos. I can always watch over and over again. That never gets old.
Brooke, what do you do when you want to wind down and not think about the news?
I like to spend time with my family.
Okay.
Speaking of The Sopranos, I actually just started it for the first time. I'm on the
Really?
second season, and I love it. It's amazing.
Wow.
I also, speaking of shows, I haven't started anything new in God knows how long. I'm a rerun of Sex and the City girl, so I watch that when I want to really unplug, but that's pretty rare. I try to cook, spend time with the family. I like to shop. It's fun to shop. And you don't even have to buy anything. Just go window shop. Look at beautiful things. That's a nice way to unplug. I like music, country music, classic rock. Just go for long walks with the music. That's really good too.
Do you know how The Sopranos ends?
No, I don't want to talk about it.
Oh.
I don't know yet. I just got,
Wait,
you know
you
what? I
don't know?
got a little excited, and I may have looked up something about one of the characters online when I was watching it because I remembered maybe someone having
hold on.
something in the past, but then I forgot again. So just don't remind me.
You really have no idea how it ends. Like, you don't know the final scene.
I have no idea.
Wow. Lexie?
You know, Bob, I've never seen The Godfather. So
you have to.
I know it's entirely possible that in the same way that no one can believe I haven't seen The Godfather, that she doesn't know how The Sopranos ends.
Yeah, not buying it. Not. Everybody knows.
I really have no idea. Do they go to jail? Does someone die? This is what I mean. I have no idea. Do they get out? Are they in the witness protection program? Like what? I have no idea. Do they eat pasta and it's just happy at the end and everything continues on? Who knows?
Well,
I believe her, Bobby.
Okay.
You're gonna have me back on maybe like in 7 years, because by the time the news calms down, I will finally be able to finish the show. But then I'll tell you my 2 cents.
Okay, yeah. Well, the three of us will get back together and we'll all react to The Sopranos ending 20 years later.
Perfect.
Yeah, 20 years since it ended. Right, exactly.
All right, finally, Lexie, I saw your tweet today about coming on the show, and you called Brooke the best dressed
I
pundit?
always call her the best dressed woman on TV. I love her outfits every single day.
Okay. You took a shot at some of my wardrobe, but I want to pull back the curtain a little bit here. So I came up through the internet. So, fancy dressing's not really my thing. I didn't work in a newsroom, so I pretty much just wear what I would out. So when I do this stuff, I'm always unsure what to wear. Do I wear a button-up shirt like Will? I don't really like that look. No offense, Will. Don't think his style for podcasting is for me. So I thought I'd wear a jacket. And I reached out to like 7 different people for advice. One of them was Lexie, and I took her advice. So if my wardrobe on camera falls short, you have nobody to blame but yourself. I even sent you pictures of all the shirts I was going to buy, and I bought the one you recommended.
Well, let me clarify. I said your clothing is unremarkable. That doesn't mean that it's bad.
Like my
It's
car,
just
right?
like his car. He sends the same 10 people, everything about himself, and his
I want to
cars.
be part of this group. I'm feeling so left out, Bobby. Let me in.
I'll let you in the group chat.
You may be careful what you wish for, but no, I said your clothing is unremarkable, meaning it's fine.
It's fine. Okay.
Brooke's clothing is like chef's kiss.
Okay.
Clothing, our unremarkable is not the same as bad. It's just it's clothing. It's fine.
All right.
I guess.
Brooke, any comment or just?
I would stay away from patterns though.
Lexie usually loves my like bright colored morning dresses. So maybe if you tried that, you would be remarkable.
I guess so.
You can dress like Ronald McDonald next time.
I guess so. All right.
Maybe red and yellow.
Well,
but I like that. But the sports coat and the plaid button down is really nice. Is that a navy sports coat with a navy and white check?
It is. I was thinking about
Very
wearing
nice.
a tan jacket. I thought the tan jacket look would work, but I was shut down pretty quickly.
It looked like an outdoor jacket. It didn't look like a sports coat. It looked like actually like something you might wear when it's in the fall. So
Okay. So don't take it back, but don't wear it out air and wait till like September to wear it.
Was it tan?
Yeah,
Was
it
it
was
like
tan.
Obama's like tan suit?
No, it was more. Lexie explained. It wasn't that. It was more of a bright tan. Like I thought it looked pretty good.
Logo on it, like it was an actual jacket. I think it looked like an actual jacket, which I was like, you can't wear that indoors.
Well,
Maybe I was wrong. I don't know. I mean, I'm never wrong, so I'd be shocked.
Well, Brooke, I'll come to you next time. But hey, I really appreciate both of you coming on. You can find Brooke all over Fox News, TV, website, Twitter. There's a lot of interesting nuggets. And Lexie, one of the better lawyers in New Jersey, pops up all over TV, Fox, Outkick, CNN. And I'm probably not supposed to say it, but I'll say it. Somebody should hire her immediately. One of these big networks. Lexie Rigden is a good hire, but appreciate you guys coming on.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks for having us.
All right, coming up next, we're going to wrap up the past 2 days and do a quick mailbag and more with the crew. You're listening to The Will Cain Show.
It's time to take the quiz. 5 questions, 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week.
History, pop culture, science, sports, civics. How much do you know? Let's find out.
Who was the first person to walk on the moon?
Jackson or something?
Neil Armstrong.
Take the quiz every weekday at thequiz.fox and then listen to the quiz podcast to find out how you did.
Play, share, and of course, listen to The Quiz right now at thequiz.fox.
Streaming now on Fox Nation.
This is insane.
This summer, join Abby Hornacek.
The biodiversity in this national park is world renowned.
Get parked
Get to just sit and take this all in.
for a new season.
There is no way this is real. This is Parked.
Don't miss Parked with Abby Hornacek. Streaming now only on Fox Nation. Sign up at foxnation.com.
The world of business moves fast. Stay on top of it with the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday. Fox Business reporters, anchors, and hosts will bring you beneath the stock market speculation and boardroom drama to tell you about the biggest business stories of today. Whether you're on Main Street or Wall Street, Fox Business is invested in you.
Listen to the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
It is the Will Cain Show. I'm Bobby Burack, filling in for Will. Pretty busy day so far. Breaking news. We had Sage Steele, Brooke, Lexie. So now we're going to bring in the crew, the producers of the show, the guys who put on the show. Dan, James, Patrick out in Jacksonville. Guys, how's the day going so far? Give me a grade. I can take some criticism. I'll give that to Patrick. He seems like a pretty reasonable teacher.
Yeah.
Pat?
Probably a C+.
C+.
Wow.
Ooh.
Passing.
Ooh. So passing.
Yeah.
Okay. Be honest. You wanted me to wear the tan jacket, didn't you? That's problem.
That was what you're missing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The look of the field.
That was the only thing.
Off.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right, Dan, I hear you have some mailbag questions for me.
Yeah, so we got a few that came in for you. So this is from Jason from North Carolina.
Ooh, never been in North Carolina.
It's a good state, a good time. Bobby, how confident are you that Biden will beat Harris?
Trump, right?
As a Trump will beat Harris.
Look, I've been very open about this. I like Donald Trump. I don't like Kamala Harris. I think Trump was a good president. I think Harris would be a bad president. But I'm a bit concerned. We talked about it yesterday. I think the new coach phenomenon's real. I think Harris will do better in battleground states like Michigan, Pennsylvania. We'll see who her VP is. I think Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania could help there. Look, the polls still have Trump as the favorite, so I'm not going to knock him off that pedestal. But I was very confident he'd beat Joe Biden. I think this might be a toss-up, guys.
Makes sense. All right, we'll do one more with you. That's all right.
Yeah, of course.
When do you think we will bridge our national divide? That's from Greg in Orlando. It's a big question everyone's wondering right now.
So the country came together during 9/11 for the most part. You would think another tragedy would bring us together. COVID didn't. COVID divided us even more. Both sides, left, right, middle class, upper class, fractured us. Donald Trump's assassination, we thought the temperatures would be turned down, as Joe Biden said. Nope. They haven't been. They've been ramped up. So if a global pandemic and the attempted assassination of a U.S. president doesn't bring us together, I'll open up to you guys. I don't see it happening. I think Harris is only going to divide us more by race and gender. I don't see this stuff stopping anytime soon.
If I could jump in real quick, I think it's tough. Like, people only have arguments on social media, not face to face. So I think having more real conversations in person with other people, especially other people that don't agree with you, is better. If we just keep having these like social media spats, it's not going to help anything and just perpetuate it. So it has to be real conversations.
James?
Yeah, I mean, President Biden, a couple days after the Trump assassination attempt, goes on an address from the Oval Office and says we need to turn it down and everybody needs to come together. And then a couple days later, he's on a phone call to Kamala Harris in front of a crowd saying that Donald Trump's an existential threat to our nation. So it's quite clear he didn't mean that. And I don't think the Democrats or the media have any intention of being unifying or trying to heal this divide. And I think things are going to get a little nasty with Vice President Harris now as the nominee, as opposed, because there's a little more, there's a little more fire coming from the progressive left to prop up her candidacy, and I think things might get a little uglier especially I think among younger folks too. I think there's going to be some enthusiasm just because of some of the boxes she checks off.
Tinfoil?
Tinfoil.
But most people think it's going to take something like an alien invasion to bring us all together.
Wow.
I don't even think that's going to do it. I think we're probably going to stay divided. We've been divided for the majority of our history, and we come together sometimes. It's just going to, I'm not sure what's going to do it, what's going to stop the divide, but like eventually it'll cycle back around, and maybe we'll just start feeling it again. But it's something that's kind of been a part of our history and kind of been with us for a long time, and I just don't see it going away a lot.
Do you believe in aliens, Patrick?
This is no. What?
I believe in probability and mathematics.
Yes.
So if you want to answer it that way,
I believe in a lot of weird
give the
things.
Obama answer.
Yeah.
Like there are objects.
I do.
Yeah.
Do you believe in Bluetooth?
Well, yes.
Wait,
we have a show.
But you don't trust Bluetooth. Like you would never wear an AirPod, right?
No.
Why?
Oh, that's why you're wired?
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Fascinating.
What are you worried
Great.
about?
These work
I don't
great.
know, like microwaves frying your brain.
Or you could hack the Bluetooth signal.
So you're not joking. You will not go portable earphones.
No, probably not.
Fascinating.
You believe in dinosaurs?
No.
Whoa. You don't believe in dinosaurs?
No.
You believe in dragons? Like previously, were there dragons on this earth?
Yes.
That's where the bones came from.
That's where they came from.
Exactly.
Yes.
The $40 million bones.
Okay. All right. I'll end with this. Do you believe? What's a good one? Are we being spied on? Like, simple answer.
We know that one.
Oh, we do. But
That's
like,
no conspiracy.
So when I say something on my phone, like they're listening, even when I'm not on the phone, like I'm just sitting there with a few friends, and I say, "Hey, I'm thinking about going." That goes right in the register, huh?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Facebook Pixel.
Wow.
That we know that the Facebook has sold your data. So like, if Facebook's listening, it's done. So it's over. It's gone.
Okay, so no Bluetooth, no dinosaurs, dragons, yes.
Aliens, maybe.
Aliens, maybe. Satellites, no.
No.
Earth might be flat. We don't know yet. May not be allowed to
We
say.
don't know yet.
We don't know yet. Okay, I'm good.
I want to see more evidence.
Is there like a secret underground to the Earth where people make big decisions that like you have to have a tunnel to get to?
All right. We're getting a little.
We're gonna get canceled.
We're gonna have to.
All right, I better tone it down.
This is
a
on
little bit.
Fox News.
Yeah. I don't want to get this show kicked off when I pass it over to the guest host. I think Joey Jones is in tomorrow, so I better
Jones.
end it right here.
Yes. That'd be good.
All right. Well, hey, I really appreciate all three of you, Dan, James, Patrick, three of the best in the business, and shout out Will Cain, my buddy. I hope he's having a good vacation. All right, this is the Will Cain Show. I'm Bobby Burack.